Hey, you fans, and welcome to the Big Blue Box podcast. My name is Gary.
My name's Adam.
And welcome to episode 266.
One day, I shall come back. Yes, I shall come back. Until then, there must be no regrets, no tears, no anxieties. Just go forward in all your beliefs and prove to me that I am not mistaken in mine.
Our lives are different to anybody else's. That's the exciting thing. Nobody in the universe can do what we're doing.
I've reversed the polarity of the neutron flow, so the TARDIS should be free of the force field now.
You may be a doctor, but I'm the doctor. The definite article, you might say.
The trouble with time travel is, one never seems to find the time.
Change, my dear, and it seems not a moment too soon.
Unlimited rice pudding, etc., etc.
I am the Doctor!
For now, for this moment, I am the Doctor again.
The ground beneath our feet is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour. And the entire planet is hurtling around the sun at 67,000 miles an hour, and I can feel it. We're falling through space, you and me.
People assume that time is a strict progression of cause to effect, but actually, from a non-linear, non-subjective viewpoint, it's more like a big ball of wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff.
I could be a curator. I'd be great at curating. I'd be the great curator.
I could retire and do that. I'm the Doctor. I've lived for over 2,000 years, and not all of them were good. I've made many mistakes, and it's about time that I did something about that.
Bit of adrenaline, dash of outrage, and a hint of panic knitted my brain back together. I know exactly who I am. I'm the Doctor. Sorting out fair play throughout the universe.
Howdy, howdy, howdy do, Who fans? I hope you're all keeping well and safe. You've had a cracking week and that you've all managed to do something Doctor Who related. Yes, indeedy. Welcome to 266, everybody. Newbies, newcomers that have jumped on board. Welcome, welcome. Long-time listeners, welcome back. Welcome back to the show. In a week where we had another watch-along and the Moff ball still kicking around on the Twitter.
Yeah.
It's pretty
and
good.
Russell.
Yeah.
Do you see Russell joined in as well?
That's
I
cool,
think those
it?
two have, they've got they can't leave it, can they? Which is great. I'm really pleased they've both stuck on Twitter. It's brilliant.
It's very cool. I saw a couple of tweets this morning, in fact, from the Moff. Nothing Doctor Who related, but he's just tweeting out some old shows on BritBox that I think he likes.
These tweet-alongs are great because loads of little details are coming out from Moffat and Russell that we just probably never ever would have known. There's loads of little tidbits coming out on Twitter from those two, isn't it?
Yeah, man.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
I'm loving it.
No, it's great because those two hold such a huge wealth of stuff that we'd never have heard or read about or anything unless. So I guess that's one of the good things to come out of the lockdown, because unless they were on Twitter doing this stuff, chances are they would never have divulged this. Maybe, I don't know, if there's if they brought a book out in a few years' time or something, like some behind the scenes stuff or another book in the same style as The Writer's Tale and stuff, then maybe. But yeah, I don't think we'd get to know any of this stuff really. It's really good.
I would love it if Moffat did a Writer's Tale style book. I think someone asked him once on stage and he said no, he would never do it. But he's so fascinating on Twitter. The stuff that he's very, what's the word? He's very honest, isn't he? He's quite candid. Is that the word? Candid.
Yeah.
And I just think it would be great if he did a behind the scenes book like Russell did, because Russell's book is it's one of the best reads. It's a great book, The Writer's Tale. So imagine Moffat doing one of those. It'd be brilliant.
Yeah, it would be very cool. We've actually got a snippet, an exchange between the two of them in our news section coming up, which would be good to talk about. On this day, dude, saw this on Twitter earlier, which is very cool. On this day back in 1966, The Gunfighters episode 2 was broadcast.
Was it?
Yeah. Don't Shoot the Pianist. All those moons ago.
Is that what the episode was called?
Yeah. Don't Shoot the Pianist, eh?
Because, yeah, of course, back in the day, Doctor Who used to have little subtitles, not subtitles, little episode titles as well as the main story, didn't it? Which I often forget. I'd completely forgotten it was called that. That's brilliant. Don't shoot the pianist.
They're really funny for the gunfighters as well. So episode 1 was called A Holiday for the Doctor.
Yeah.
Don't shoot the pianist. Then Ep 3 was Johnny Ringo. And then Ep 4 was the OK Corral. As expected. Yeah.
Brilliant. The gunfight. Wow. Does that, I can't remember. Have I seen, is that one that's partly exists? I can't remember. If I have seen it, it's a long time ago. Got a feeling that's one that's, let's have a look. Or maybe it all exists. I can't remember. But so is that the one where he's got the toothache, isn't it?
That's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Deary me.
Dodo.
Yeah.
Oh, crikey. So yeah, that was, I just saw that on Twitter. I thought that's really nice. Yeah, I haven't been up to too much, bud, over the last week. No, not much at all. I've had a really busy week with work because it's the bank holiday here in the UK tomorrow. We're recording on Thursday, the 7th, and it's a bank holiday here tomorrow. So I've had loads of stuff to try and get ready and done for the end of week for work. So I've been quite busy.
A busy bee.
Yeah, plus we've had Star Wars Day, obviously, with May the 4th. So I've been doing a load of stuff on my other podcast for Star Wars and all that jazz. So, not a lot of time left over for Doctor Who. But I know that you've been up to one thing involving a certain Blu-ray set. I know you've dived into some of that stuff.
Yeah, God, yeah. So, I was lucky to get the season 14 Blu-ray set, which seems to have been an absolute fiasco for a lot of people. I don't know what the hell's going on, but seems to be a lot of people having orders cancelled and stock problems. I mean, I'm going to guess it's down to two things. I'm going to guess it's down to the virus perhaps holding up production of the sets, possibly, because Amazon don't seem to have got the amount they ordered or something. And I think it's down to scalpers as well. I think the stock that has made it out there, these blimmin' scalpers have been out and bought them in bucket loads and they're selling them on eBay for extortionate prices. It's a really sad to see. So I've got to be honest, I was genuinely so grateful when this plonked through my letterbox the other day. I was just so glad to actually have it in my hands because I would have hated to missed out on this one. I really do feel for people who've, some people who ordered it on the day of pre-order and haven't, their orders have been cancelled. So I'm so glad to have got it because I hate to rub it in, but it's such a great set, as you can imagine. I've watched a couple of the behind the sofas, which is always good fun. I think they've tightened up the editing on these as well because they really flew past. I've watched the first 3. They're normally the first thing I watch as well. I don't know about you. I tend to go straight for the behind the sofas because I've normally watched the episodes themselves a few times. So I tend to watch all the extra features first, all the new stuff. And they've been great fun. It's just brilliant. It's nice to see Sophie back on the panel as well. And Tom's on there obviously as well. And I did brave it. I went straight in and watched the Sarah Jane, Elizabeth Sladen documentary. Whew. My word. My word. It is beautiful and absolutely heartbreaking. I knew it was going to be. I mean, I made sure I was on my own because I knew I was going to cry, but I didn't expect to be. I was destroyed in the last 10 minutes because Tom Baker's involved in it quite a bit. They talked to him and to see Tom getting so emotional, I tell you, it really, really hit home. It's such a beautiful documentary. But I don't know has your set arrived yet? Have you got your set?
Yeah, I got mine on Monday.
Yeah. So I'm guessing, have you had a chance to watch any of it yet?
No, nothing at all. It's on the list for the weekend, dude.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, buddy, you need to prepare yourself for that documentary. But don't get me wrong, it is so good. It is a brilliant documentary, but it's going to wreck you. You'll be sat staring at a blank television for about 10 minutes afterwards, just taking it, just letting it just soak in. It's brilliant. But yeah, so I've been working my way through that, and I think that's it. I think I've just watched some of the behind sofas. That, as I said, I haven't watched any of the episodes yet. Package is beautiful though. Golly, binding, man.
He's the man, isn't he?
It's not just the box and all the stuff, like the little envelope as you open the box, but the booklet as well. I was flicking through it. So much effort goes into these. It's stunning. It's stunning. As I said, I just hope that they manage to make some more of these sets because I do feel so sorry for people that have missed out on this. It's such a beautiful set. I mean, any sort of genuine Doctor Who fan that wants this in their collection deserves to have it. It's just brilliant.
It was a shame. It was a shame because I saw a few websites that suddenly just put the in stock badge back on the website, so everybody jumped on it as you would expect.
Yeah,
and then they got contacted to say no, we don't have them actually. So it was I think that's more of a shame than just missing out originally. So when they first went up for pre-order, I don't know how many months ago they went up, but and you didn't get one then, that's crappy. But then and it was at least 2 websites that I saw that said, oh, we've got some in stock now, so jump on and be quick. So people jumped on and thought, yeah, I've got a second bite at the cherry, and then they got contacted to say, actually, no, that was a mistake or it's an error or something. So
yeah,
that sucks, doesn't it?
It really does. And I don't understand how it could happen, because way back in the day when I had my little online shop, it was very simple. I put in the amount of the things that I'd got on, on behind the scenes on the website. I'd put in quantity 5 for sale. And then once those 5 had gone, that was it. So I don't know where it goes wrong, because it doesn't seem to be just one website. It seems to be a few that have advertised it. People have bought it, and then 2 hours later got an email saying, sorry, we can't fulfill the stock. And I don't know the behind the scenes, but if that was me, I'd be fuming, because you think you've got it in the bag. You're like, yes, I've got one. Brilliant. And then to get an email 2 hours later, you must be destroyed. I mean, you know how fussy I am with my stuff as well. Like, I love things. I always, when I go in the shop, I pick the best one, and and so mine arrived with a slight ding in one corner of the set. The top right hand corner is obviously in the post, just bashed against the box. It was sort of dented in. I thought, that's a bit annoying. But as I said, with something like this, I just cannot complain, because I'm just so glad to have it. Do you know what I mean? And it's a tiny, tiny little thing. Do you know what I mean? One of my Twitter followers sent me a picture of his set that arrived from Amazon. Absolutely, wow, it's in such a bad state. I mean, if mine had arrived like that, I'd have been in tears, I think. I don't know if you saw the tweet, did you?
I didn't, no.
The box is all ripped. It's got a massive dent in one of the... It just looks like it's been kicked around the warehouse. I feel so sorry for them. But most of the pictures I've seen, it looks immaculate. It's just so... I guess it's just one of those, the luck of the draw. If your postman's having a bad day, he's probably kicked it down the road. But yeah, I'm just very glad to have got it.
Yeah,
and I hope everybody else gets in. I wish the scalpers would just blimmin' do one, because they're just making lives miserable. It's just so annoying to see so many copies for sale on eBay for literally hundreds of pounds. It's crazy. I don't know how they get so many, and I don't know what they can do about limiting these, because even if you put it as one per customer, it's pretty easy to find a way around it, isn't it? So I don't know what we can do to stop this, but yeah.
I know. It's inventory systems, probably running on Windows Vista.
Blimey.
That's probably what it is.
Past.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been working my way through the Series 4T set. Fantastic so far. Just loving it. And I don't want to rush it as well, because on the Monday that I got it, obviously I'm at home in a minute because of being furloughed and stuff. So I was like, yes, I got the whole day to watch it, despite my other half moaning, you're always sat on the sofa watching the TV, you don't do anything. So I was thinking, you can just, I was just like, you can just, my new set's arrived, just leave me alone, I want to watch it. And it was so hard not to just sit there all day and binge it. Honestly, I had to sort of tell myself, right, that's enough, save some for tomorrow, leave the sofa for 10 minutes. I could have literally just sat and blitzed the whole lot. I think it's that good. The only other thing I've been doing is I've been jumping into a lot of the Who Alex live streams, and they watched the War Machines, the Hartnell story.
Oh, nice.
War Machines, the other night. And I can't remember when we reviewed that. We did review it, didn't we?
We did, ages ago, yeah.
Ages ago, yeah. It's always been a Hartnell story that I really enjoy. So I was hoping that they would enjoy it, because it's that thing of, when your friends watch something you really like, and you just think, I hope they enjoy it, hope they like it, hope they see what I see in it. And I wasn't sure how that was going to go. But yeah, they both loved it. It was it was great. It was just so good to see them engrossed in it. And I wasn't sure how Liv from the Who Alex was going to get on with Hartnell. I thought she'll either like him straight away, or she'll think he's too abrasive, and that'll be it. But yeah, she really liked him, so that was good, and really great to watch that story again. It's a good one. It's a good one, The War Machines.
It's very good. Do you want to know what we scored it?
Yeah, I'm actually trying to find it now as we speak. Go on, yeah.
It was episode 78.
78, there we go. Yeah.
Which is quite a while ago now. And we both gave it an 8.
An 8?
An 8 out of 10, yeah.
Yeah. It's good. It's not a great exit for Dodo. That's probably why I knocked off a score. Because she literally, what is it? She gets a headache, doesn't she? She goes, I've got a bit of a headache. I'm going to go and take some time out. And then we never see her again.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah, that was back on the 19th of February, 2016.
Blimey.
We did that. Yeah.
It is an early one. I'd forgotten that when they tell Hartnell, he's like, where's Dodo then at the end? And they're like, oh, she's not coming back, Doctor. Here's her key. She's off. There's a really funny bit where he's like, oh, how ungrateful the girl. Or he starts getting all huffy, doesn't he? I've forgotten about that.
Oh, I love him when he's like that, though.
I do. And I really wanted to watch. I'm pretty sure. I'm not definite, but I'm pretty sure. Because at the end of The War Machines, Polly and Ben sneak into the TARDIS. I'm pretty sure it's the next story that when Hartnell finds them in there, that he goes ape. I'm sure last time I watched that, like absolutely creasing up, because I think he goes mad when he discovers them, but I can't remember. I need to watch it. What's the story after? Is it the smugglers or something? I'm sure he kicks off. He's like, how dare you come in the ship? And he starts going mad.
Oh yeah, that's literally within 10 seconds of the next one.
It's the very first scene. Yeah, I really wanted to go on and watch it. In fact, I might watch it later, just even if it's just that scene.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, the smugglers.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, just remember loving that. Yeah. So that's been me pretty much. Watch-alongs and tweet-alongs with Russell and Moffat and season 14. But I'm really looking forward to you getting into your set, mate. You're gonna love it. You're just gonna love it.
Yeah, I can't wait, dude. It's I'm gonna shove a couple of hours into that at the weekend.
Yeah, brilliant. Yes. It's really nice, isn't it, to have it just there? It's like a little treasure trove just waiting for you to open it.
Little treasure trove, yeah.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yes, indeedy. So that's what we've been up to. So coming up in today's show, we've got one bit of news, a couple of bits of merch to go through, and then we're on to our review of the first part of the Trial of a Time Lord, which is the Mysterious Planet, which is going to kick off our month. So those of you that didn't catch the end of the show last week, we're going to dedicate all of May to the 6th Doctor story, The Trial of a Time Lord, because we need to get through this box set. Adam and I have spoken at great length on previous occasions about how the heck we're going to get through and do this review. So we're just going to plough through it all. So we're going to get onto the first part later on in the show. In the meantime, before we get onto that though, however, make sure you subscribe to the show on whatever podcast app you listen to your podcasts on, so that you don't miss a show when that lands every Friday, or head over to the website, bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. You can listen to all of the shows on there. Plus there are buttons to link off to the various apps and networks, and we're on the socials too, Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. Give us a like and a follow over there as we chat Doctor Who throughout the week. And on the website, we had a bunch of reviews that went up from our awesome writing team. We had the Big Finish story, the 6th Doctor story, Cry of the Voltress, which looks pretty good. And then we had Jordan diving into the recent spin-off, the new Countermeasures.
Oh, yeah.
Which looks interesting. So the Magellan Maneuver and the Dalek Gambit both look pretty decent. So head over there and read those. All looks pretty good. Right, dude. Should we land and do a bit of news?
We should. Just before you do, though, mate, before talking of reviews, before someone goes and knocks a star off for my terrible memory again, it can't be the Smugglers that he's kicking off, because apparently, according to Wiki, it doesn't exist. So I must be mixing up with another story. So forgive my useless memory, but there is an episode where Hartnell kicks off about someone sneaking the TARDIS. I can't remember what it is. Somebody out there can let us know when they've listened to the pod, because I really want to watch it again.
No, it's definitely one of the following episodes to that, I remember.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's literally within the first 10-20 seconds, a story just after that one. Yeah.
Anyway, just wanted to clarify that. Right, let's do some news.
So first up, in a bit of an exchange between the Mothball and Russell T Davies, when we were doing the watch along the other day, there was a bit of a huge trivia bomb that landed from the Moff that I think a few people had spoken about in the past, but had not really taken it any further. It was just one of those little fleeting conversations like, oh yeah, that could be, and then you leave it alone. But in the story Silence in the Library, we have a scene where later on in the episode, there's a character that turns up called Dr. Moon.
Dr. Moon.
Dr. Moon, yes. And at first glance, I think on the surface, everybody just thought that, okay, he is a doctor after all. There's no relation to the character of the Doctor or anything like that. But then the Mothball dropped this just in a random tweet, and everybody was like, what? And even Russell himself was like, was really into this conversation. So they started talking about River originally. They were saying that obviously in the story, the River says goodbye to the Doctor that she knew originally, and then their timelines start to go in opposite directions, and then she starts meeting the younger or the previous incarnation, should I say, of the Doctor, and so on. And then the Moff goes on to say that the Doctor worried he was worrying that River would get lonely as she sort of forgets meeting the Doctor and all that stuff, and he put himself into his mind, I suppose, into the moon or a moon around that time frame of Silence in the Library. And Russell like sort of jumps on this. He's like, "Oh my God, I can't believe that you wrote this and that you forgot that you wrote it. This is all amazing." And then the Moff goes on to say that yes, the every time he watches this story, he thinks back to that character, Dr. Moon, that we see later on, and he says quite obviously amusingly to himself that is the Doctor. That's a future incarnation of the Doctor, and nobody knew at the time. Nobody clocked that that in his mind he had worked out this whole storyline of, however many hundreds or thousands of years in the future, that this character would be the Doctor. And so when he dropped that bomb, everybody started thinking, actually, yeah, that does work. That might actually work, and everyone went nuts for it. So it's just another awesome thing that came out of the whole tweet along, and these little nuggets of awesomeness that both the Moff and Russell have been dropping during these watch-alongs. So, but what a bombshell do, because we had this whole, at the end of Series 12, there was a huge bomb that was dropped by the Chibbers, wasn't there, about not just the potential future regenerations for the current Doctor and how they might handle that, because at that point we always assumed that with Matt Smith's Doctor we had a fresh reset of 12 regenerations and how they were going to do that moving forward. But they kind of got around that, didn't they? He very quietly and subtly just said, well, the Doctor's immortal, basically. So there could be an infinite number of Doctors before and to come. So we already had the whole mind melting, breaking the internet of that stuff, and now the Moff drops this one. Actually, yeah, you've already seen one of them. He pops up in this story. So this was really cool, mate. This is a really cool little thing that everyone jumped onto. Did you think this was cool?
Yeah, I did. Naughty old Moff. No, I love it actually, and it's weird because I really like Silence in the Library. I think it's a great two-parter. I haven't watched it for a while, so it'd be interesting next time I do go back and watch it to sort of put that idea into my head as I'm watching it. Yeah, it's a great idea. It's typical Moffat. I think he's itching to come back. I mean, I don't know what he's doing these days. I don't know what he's working on. I'm sure he's keeping himself busy, but I love the fact he's still involved in it. He's still clearly got a passion, hasn't he, for Doctor Who, as has Russell. And I think all this watch along and all this interaction, and bearing in mind that Moffat was originally driven off Twitter because he used to be on it, and then due to the negativity back in the day, he left because it was just, well, why would you want to be on there just getting that all the time? So it's great that he's come back and he's in a much more positive place, and the fandom in terms of his era seems to have reflected on it and is in a much more positive place. So I think both him and Russell were just finding this sort of newfound inner love again that's always been there, but like with most things, you walk away, you move on, you do something else, but then you always come back to that special thing, don't you? And I think I wouldn't be surprised maybe not Russell so much, but I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see the Mothball penning an episode again one day, in the not too distant future. I could just see him doing it because I think he'd love to write for Jodie. I just feel like he would love to have a go at writing a story for her. I've nothing to back this up. I just feel that's just what my gut feeling is, and just seeing his stuff on Twitter, I can just imagine that happening, and I'd be all for it actually, because I think that the pressure of being a showrunner got to the Moffat a bit towards the end of the show. I think he said it himself. He was struggling to pull ideas out of the hat and stuff, and I think he said so. I was just making it up as I went along, or so. This is what I love about him. He's so honest. But I think when the pressure's off and you just allowed freedom to, if you fancy writing a story, he could be working on one now, and there'd be no pressure to finish it. He could just be thinking, when I've got this to a place that I feel is good enough, I might just give the old Chibbers a ring and say, I've just found this script down the back of the sofa you might want to use. So I'd love to see it. I would love to see it.
Yeah.
Imagine if for the 60th, God, my mind's going into overdrive now. Imagine for the 60th if you got Chibbers, RTD, and Moffat all writing, coming together to write the 60th. I mean, it wouldn't happen, but imagine that.
That'd be awesome. Yeah.
Imagine there could be carnage in the writing room. Imagine if they disagreed on stuff, and the writer's room turned into a bloodshed at the writer's room.
Oh, God,
but it would be amazing to get those three together just to see what they come up with.
Yeah, it would be great actually. I think I don't think he's the only thing. He did that Dracula series earlier on this year.
Yeah,
that I think he did with Mark Gatiss, I think.
Yes, that's right.
There's nothing else on his radar, I don't think. I think he's writing something like a remake of Jekyll, which I think is going to be another.
Yeah,
TV
he's doing
series.
some. What did I see? Did you watch that Dracula, by the way?
I did, yes.
First two episodes were blimmin' brilliant. When the third one was, I don't know, I think the Mothball had a couple of glasses too many by episode 3.
He was on the wine, wasn't he? Yeah.
It was definitely trying to be different. I'll give it that. But the first, particularly the first two episodes, the one on the boat, episode 2, fantastic stuff. Yeah. Really, really creepy, scary stuff.
Yeah, so I think he's continuing the horror theme. He's going to do a Jekyll remake for TV, it sounds like. But other than that, he's not got much else on. Lazy bugger. Least he could do is write some Who.
Yeah, come on, Moff.
I like the idea of that though. For the 60th, get them all back in and do like this epic big.
It would be good, but would it be too many cooks? I don't know. It could go either way, couldn't it? It could either be brilliant and be the absolute coming together of 3, Doctor Who minds, or it could just be a case of too many cooks in the kitchen and machetes flying and.
Yeah, you can imagine him just hoying his bottle of wine at the wall again. And...
a bottle of red smashing past Chibbers' head.
We're not doing the Daleks.
No.
He's fed up with the bloody Daleks, and then Chibbers was like, "Yeah, but they're great." Oh, shut up! You haven't been doing it that long. Shut up.
And old Mark Gate is at the kitchen door. Could I just no, Mark, you're not in this.
Oh God.
Yeah. Oh dear. We can but dream.
Russell just sitting there twiddling his thumbs like. You lot just argue amongst yourselves. I've got this. On with it. I've got this. Don't worry. So there we go. Yeah, it was a lovely little nugget of trivia that came out of the Moff's mind that was just really cool. And it does. I imagine they've got loads of those. Like if they were to sit down and talk and record it or write it even, I'm sure there'd be loads of those little things. And then we'd have to go back and watch them all again. And then you'd be like penny drop moment. You'd be like, oh yeah, now it makes sense. Yeah.
Do you know what I love about the Moff as well? I'm just thinking about him, and I'm thinking about every time we've seen him at a BFI event or not a con, but just a sort of a casual event where he's turned up to be part of the audience or be on stage. He always just comes out. He always seems happy to just come out and sign, and it's like he feels like, yeah, right, okay, I've done it here. I'll just plonk my bottle of wine on the side like he did at the BFI. Come on then, let me sign all these. He never seems to have an issue with it, and I don't know. Maybe I can only talk by my experience. I've seen him a few times. The class premiere, he just stood at his table with a glass of wine and was happy to sign all day long. And I just love the fact that he's just so, come on then, he just gets on with it. It's none of this, I haven't got time now, or, I just like them off. I got a fondness for him. I really have.
Yeah. No,
I've still got my wine, and it is wine stained. I've still got my wine stained class postcard signed by him. He's spilled wine all over it.
Yep.
Yeah, great. I do like the man.
Yeah, we gave him a fair bit of stick back in the day when we were reviewing some of the some of his era. We really did. We gave him some stick, but at the same time, he also did some amazing Doctor Who.
But what he's always he does take on board criticism though. He's quite happy he gives as good as he gets, but he will take criticism. That's what I like, even in interviews and stuff. He's quite happy to say if he's got something wrong. He was talking about the kiss, wasn't he, the other day? Amy kissing the Doctor at the end of whatever episode that is, which I've always disliked that bit where she throws Matt against the TARDIS. It all gets a bit, ooh. And he did say the other day, yeah, I was wrong, He said in my head it was great, and they told me not to do it, but I, I still went ahead with it. He said, but looking at it now, it's wrong. And I think, he will admit when he's got something wrong. Again, that's what I like about him. He does take criticism on the chin, but he will tell you if he thinks you're wrong as well.
Oh, of course,
yeah, which is great.
That's all good. So there we go. Some little trivia being dropped there by our previous showrunners, which is great.
Yeah.
Some merch, dude.
Oh, get old grumpy ball bearings in then.
Merch corner. Merch corner. Merch corner.
It's a bit rubbish, but it's pretty. It's very pretty.
Well, there you are, young man. What do you think of that now, eh? A Viking helmet.
I know, it's on the telly. It's everywhere.
I don't know whether to be impressed or disgusted.
I work in a shop now, here to help.
Oh, grumpy.
He looks a bit shiny. Has he had a new paint job? But you haven't been giving him a paint over, have you?
We've buffed him up.
He looks a bit shiny. Yeah, he looks like he's glowing.
We had to do something, dude. We had to do something. In our garden, in the back garden.
He was letting himself go, wasn't he?
Well, yeah. In the back garden, there's just some track lines that just run around the outside of the lawn where he's just going round and round and round and round.
I attached a mower to him the other day. He went mad.
So as a result, he's got bits of grass and mud all over him and cleaned him up a bit. He's still not happy. He's never going to be happy, is he? But
no, he's never happy.
There we go. He has let us know that we got some cool Big Finish on the way. And the reason why I wanted to highlight this one is because this was recorded completely remotely.
Yeah.
During the lockdown. So in a few days' time, on the 12th of May, we're going to have Doctor Who Shadow of the Sun landing at Big Finish. And it's going to star Tom as Fourth Doctor, obviously, Louise Jameson and John Leeson as K9, dude.
Yeah, K9.
And it's been written by Rob Valentine. So this is kind of cool because it can be very difficult to, as a podcaster, I know it can be very difficult to try and get your audio, especially for vocal tracks, sounding as good as they can be when you've not got the ideal environment. Now, usually the guys at Big Finish have got, they haven't got like a huge, massive state-of-the-art studio, but they do have a very good couple of booths to record in. So they've got it very well sound treated and they've got decent equipment and stuff. And then their post-processing is very good. But that's when you've got the ideal environment to do that in. So when you've just got somebody at home in their front room or their kitchen and they've got, we don't know what type of microphone equipment they've got or anything like that, it can be a real challenge for the audio engineers to try and get that sounding as good. So I'm really intrigued to see or to hear how this is going to sound as they've all done it remotely from their homes. And also you've got the compression factor as well. So when you're recording over Skype or Zoom, whatever, they compress the audio down so that it doesn't, so the bandwidth isn't as high, so to try and stop lag and all that sort of stuff. So the audio is not going to be as clean anyway when it comes through at the other end. So I'm really intrigued to find out what's going on. And the story itself sounds kind of cool. So the blurb they've got with this one is, after an accident, the TARDIS lands on a luxury starliner. Leaving their ship to repair itself, the Doctor, Leader and K9 find themselves facing a great terror, mingling at a cocktail party. Something seems awry behind the pleasantries, however. Guests are going missing and equipment is breaking down. When the Doctor investigates further, he discovers that the starliner is literally on course for disaster. But no one seems surprised by this information, still less troubled. What's going on? And can the Doctor and his friends save everyone when nobody wants to be saved? That sounds intriguing.
It does sound good, doesn't it?
Yes. And this is also the first, due to lockdown and everything, this is the first Big Finish story that will be a digital first release. So the mail out of the physical edition, the CDs, are going to be obviously delayed because of what's going on, but you will be able to download it from the Big Finish website, or if you've got the app, you'll be able to grab it from there as soon as that's released. So that might be a good testing ground for them, actually, because I know that over the past year or so, they've cut down on the amount of physical releases, and I've really tried to push the digital stuff. So this might be a good test to see if people will actually. I know it's not exactly a fair test because a lot of people will have to do it, but it might be a good sort of dip their toe in the water to be like, okay, maybe we could push out the digital stuff and not worry too much about the time it takes to get CDs out to people. But yeah, this sounds like a cool story anyway, dude.
Yeah, I do. I like the blurb. It does sound fun, doesn't it? And I'm wondering how quickly they've thrown this together, because Nick Briggs has said, the Fourth Doctor stuff, they've recorded so much that I think for the next 2 years they've got the releases already recorded. So to sort of throw this together and get it out there so quick, it is intriguing to see how it works. I've pre-ordered it. I pre-ordered it the other day. So I'm really looking forward to this. Even the cover's good. Like, the cover doesn't look like it's been mashed together in 5 minutes, does it? It looks like someone spent a lot of time on that.
Yeah, Simon Holub.
Who is it?
Simon Holub.
Yeah, well, he's done a great job.
He's
I really
good.
like it. Yeah. So, and obviously they will have had to learn their lines. I mean, I know they're sat there reading it from a script, but obviously you still got to get your head around the words and stuff. So yeah, it's great that they've sort of thrown this together so quickly, and I look forward to it. I hope it's good.
Yeah, I'm going to listen to this, mate. I think it's going to be good. So it's $8.99 digital, which you can pre-order now, or if you want to order or pre-order the CD, when that finally arrives, you'll get that, and that's $10.99. So as always, though, if you do order the CD, you get the digital version anyway, so you'll be able to listen to it on day one, if you so choose to.
They did post a great picture of Tom recording it from his home as well over, looks like Zoom. Yeah. Which is great, isn't it?
Got his headphones on and he's into it, you can tell. And
he is, isn't he? Look at his face. He's just loving it. And I love that, man. I just love Tom.
Yeah, so there we go. Shadow of the Sun landing on when was it? 12th? Something like that. 12th of May, yeah.
There we go. Right, moving on. I think last week or the week before, or maybe a couple of weeks ago, I've lost track of time in this lockdown, we spoke about the Master Annual, which is part of the unofficial annuals, Doctor Who annuals that have been coming out from, now help me out with this, mate,
I think it's Terrachaos.
Terrachaos Distributors.
Or Terraqueous, one of the two.
Yeah, available to order from lulu.com. That's a lot easier to say. So they've done a couple of these. They did the 1987 Doctor Who annual, which never came out back in the day, so they made one, and they did this unofficial master one. And the one the reason we're talking about it again is because there's a chance to get 20% off using the code, all in capitals, it's here. So if you go to www.lulu.com and put in "it's here," case sensitive, you'll get 20% off this. These are printed to demand, and basically they are designed to look like the annuals did back in the day. So you've got Alistair Pearson, who's one that used to do all the artwork for Doctor Who back in the day, Paul Cook, Andy Walker, and Smuzz. Smuzz. They're all contributing, and now, although I haven't got this myself, I did see a couple of friends who had bought this tweet some pictures of it, and I've got to say it looked great. It really does look good. It's just, anybody who knows the old annuals will know the style of artwork and text that they used to use, and they've really nailed it. It just looks like it would fit straight in with all those other annuals. So yeah, if you want the Master Annual, go and have a look at it. Gary will put a link in the podcast notes, and I'll give you the price. It's 20... Where is it? 23.32, because obviously that's just the print cost and stuff, print to demand plus shipping, and you'll get 20% off that.
Yeah, I think it brings it down to about £18.
Yeah,
I think with 20% off. But
right.
these are lovely to look at, and it's really cool that they've decided that the art direction should mimic the old style of annuals, and they've really done that. Like especially the front cover art, it just looks like it was plucked out of the 70s. It looks really, really cool.
It does. You got a Delgado on the front there, just looking awesome.
Yeah, so go and check that out if you're a fan. Especially if you picked up the previous ones. I think they did a 6th Doctor one.
Yeah, did they do a 7th as well? I can't remember, but I have a feeling they might have done. Yeah,
yeah. So yeah, just go and check that out. I'll put a link in the show notes. It looks very, very cool. That's it for news and merch.
That's your lot.
That is your lot. Yes. Right, it's review time. We're going to have to slam into this full force, mate, and get through it. What have we got?
Yeah, so we are diving into the Trial of a Time Lord season. Colin Baker, starting with the first story, of course, The Mysterious Planet.
Turn on to the new season of entertainment on BBC One. Doctor Who returns, only to find he's on trial.
Would it be too much to ask what all this is about? It is my unpleasant task, Madam Inquisitor, to prove to the inquiry that the Doctor is an incorrigible meddler in the affairs of other peoples and planets.
Not guilty! I order you to work! Well, that should just about do it. Use your tracer disc. We must report back.
I am Katrika, Queen of the...
Doctor Who returns for a new series in the new season of entertainment on BBC One.
On BBC One.
Another great trailer.
Love those old trailers, yeah. So, The Mysterious Planet. I don't think it was broadcast as that, was it? When it first went out? Was it called The Mysterious Planet?
Oh, I think so. I don't know. I assume so. I don't
know.
Okay.
Yeah, so this was first broadcast back on the 6th of September 1986, and it finished up at the end of the month, the 27th. It was written by Robert Holmes, overseen by Eric Saywood, and directed by Nicholas Mallet. Obviously stars Colin Baker as the 6th Doctor and Nicola Bryant as Perry, with about a dozen supporting cast members, which we will no doubt forget all of their names, as you would expect. And so Trial of a Time Lord, it was the series 23, essentially. It's like the whole series, isn't it, of series 23? And it was like an overarching thing where the Doctor is essentially on trial. So it starts with, at the start of this one, he gets summoned to the High Council, where he's up on charges. Bless him. He's up on charges of harmful interference to the course of events during his space-time excursions. And apparently, due to those charges, he has threatened the sanctity of the universe. And the Doctor's not happy about this, and he pleads his case, obviously, to the Inquisitor. She's overseeing everything, and he kind of... Yeah, he's not taking it too seriously, and he's a little bit miffed about it. However, the dude that's prosecuting, the Valeyard, seems to have a pretty good case, as we see towards the end of the story, and that's only because as we find out later on. No spoilers if you haven't watched the rest of the other stories of the Trial of a Time Lord. Actually, I'll keep that under wraps, just in case people, it's like the first time they've seen it. But the Valeyard is his motives and how he's got the Doctor to this point is not quite as it seems, and he's essentially making it the point of his life to get the Doctor found guilty, and the punishment will be death, apparently. So this is like the first phase of the Valeyard's plan. Essentially, is to review the past interactions of this of the Doctor, where they land on a planet called Ravalox with Perry, and they're essentially just having a look around, really. Perry wants to find somewhere fairly quiet and nice, but we'll see, as the case with all Doctor Who, as soon as they land there, something's not right. The Doctor wants to investigate. There's another couple of dudes on this planet, Glitz and Dobber, who are all in it for the money, essentially. And there's the planet was ravaged by fire many centuries ago, And when they arrive there, they kind of find out that things aren't quite right. This is they find a London Underground sign, and which Perri, she's kind of got this feeling, hasn't she, that this is like a planet of dread and something's not right. She wants to leave, and the Doctor wants to investigate. And then it's there's like an underground system of people that have lived in these tunnels, and then there's a group of people, the free lot, who are a topside, because the people in the tunnels underneath have been fed a lie. Essentially, they've been told that the planet's still on fire. It's not habitable, but it's fine. There's a tribe of people who are doing pretty well. So, the first part, Mysterious Planet, what you got on this one?
It's funny because on paper it sounds quite intriguing, doesn't it? A planet that's like Earth, marble arch signs, ravished fire. It does sound quite good, and it's written by Robert Holmes as well, who's a great writer for Doctor Who. It's funny because every time I put this on, that opening shot takes me back to when I was a kid first watching this, and I remember thinking at the time, because Doctor Who had been off air for over a year, it was quite troubled times for Doctor Who. So I was like, remember sitting there waiting for this to come on, and you see that glorious opening shot, and I remember thinking, whoa, Doctor Who may have been off for a year, but it's back, and obviously it's going to look at this. And then we cut to the courtroom, and it pretty much goes downhill from there. Really, it's sort of it's a plodder. And I must admit, watching it again yesterday, the first 2 episodes I was sort of enjoying it. I was thinking, okay, actually, yeah, there's some good stuff going on, but it does fizzle out and it does plod along. It's just considering, they wanted to come, they really should have come back with a bang. The show was literally on trial. The BBC wanted to get rid of it. They'd already tried, hence the hiatus. So they managed to get it back. And as I said, that opening shot is so promising. But you can see that a lot of the budget went on that, because the rest of the episode doesn't look particularly great. And yeah, it's not bad, but it's not great either. It's just what I would call a very average episode of Doctor Who. And considering, the circumstances surrounding this at the time, I think really it should have been a lot stronger. Particularly is some of the cast in it as well. I mean, I like this idea of the trial. I didn't like it at the time. As a kid, I found it really annoying that they kept interrupting the story. I hated this back in the day. Well, I hated it, but I didn't like the whole trial idea at all when I was younger, when I first watched this. But over the years, I quite like the concept. I think, yeah, it's a really good idea to have the Doctor on trial and Gallifrey and the Valeyard and all that stuff. I actually quite like that side of it now. But it does pull you out of the story, keep breaking it up. And I think it wouldn't be too bad if they were saying anything that added to the story. So even if, the trial scenes added something, it would be good. But all they do is say, why are we watching this? This is pointless. Why have you interrupted us again? This is pointless. And I think, yes, it is. So it's, apart from sort of like the humorous banter between the Doctor and the Valeyard in those scenes, they do become quite tiresome, I think. So just to wrap up my final thoughts, really, I was enjoying it for the first sort of couple of parts. It wasn't really grabbing me. By the time we got to episode 4, I was quite glad to have finished it, really. I just found it just trundled along. It was just a bit of a meh episode, really. Just didn't really set the world on fire, literally. So, yeah, it's okay. It's average. It's just an average Doctor Who story. Very perfectly watchable, but just nothing special at all. Yeah, feels a bit stale, A lot of the ideas in it have just been used so many times before. It just feels a bit stale, and it should have been fresh, I think, considering what was going on at the time. They should have come back with something really dynamic, and this just feels very run of the mill Doctor Who.
Right.
Yeah.
I read you.
What do you think, mate? What do you think?
Yeah, well, there's a reason, dude, isn't there, why the 6th Doctor appears quite low on the majority of people's lists,
Mm-hmm.
And that's just because, some of it's just not very good.
Yeah.
You got to be honest, and this is one of those stories where, crikey, you can see exactly what they were going for. But just a combination of the script and the direction just makes it very, very difficult to enjoy. Just because it's I don't know, it's on, like you said, on paper, this should have been a belter. This should have been an absolute belter, and on paper it just sounds so cool. But there's a few things that just, I don't know. Like Robert Holmes is, like you said, is generally considered a great writer for Who. But I just feel like this was his last complete story, wasn't it? This was the last time he wrote a complete story for Who.
I think he was quite ill, wasn't he? I think he actually died quite soon after this transmitted, or maybe even as it was transmitting. I can't remember. But you'd think, see, Eric Saywood's normally good at this point. If you get a script that's a little bit, okay, Robert Holmes obviously wasn't at his best when he wrote this, but normally Eric steps up to the plate to sort these things out, doesn't he? But I think he was being a bit aloof at this point. I think him and J&T weren't getting on, from what I remember from the documentary. So he's not really put his stamp on it. And I think he possibly, considering there are some good ideas in this script, he could have possibly brought it up a notch or two. But I don't think he was really too bothered at the time. I mean, I don't know, who knows what was going on behind the scenes back then. But I know it was a bit of a troubled time for Doctor Who all round, really. But I think, like you said, Robert Holmes, great writer, but it's not one of his best scripts for lots of reasons. Yeah,
and he did. Yeah, so he passed away before this was broadcast. So I think he passed away in April or May, I believe, of 1986, I think. And this didn't go out till September. So I think, this was, so part one, the 4 parts, of The Mysterious Planet, he wrote from start to finish. I think he did put some stuff down for the other parts, but didn't complete them. But the thing is with me for this script is that it's very, very, it just seems like a do-over, because this is noted down quite a lot, that the story with this one is very, very similar to the Crotons, where both stories are essentially the same, really. It's like an alien machine, a robot, has sort of got people under control and has sort of forced its own civilization and brings up its sort of brightest talent to sort of conduct all of its stuff for it and stuff like that. So it's very, very similar. So because of that, this feels like we're treading old ground a lot.
It does.
So the first time I watched this was a few years back now. I've only ever seen this whole thing once, by the way. So this is the second time for me watching it through. And and it happened again when I was sort of towards the end of episode 2, and especially into episode 3. I thought, it all feels like very familiar Doctor Who in terms of the story on the story that's taking place on Ravelox. It all feels very common, treading old ground. The thing that I did like, though, and not many people do, is I like the cut back to the courtroom scenes, because I think we see Colin at his best in some of those scenes. Yeah, so the bits that we see on Ravelox, he's okay in some of that stuff, but those, when he really loses his beep at the Valeyard and he starts shouting and going nuts, to me that's Colin at his best. He's really cutting loose, and but he kind of gives it a bit of range as well. Like he has a mixture of anger, sarcasm, what's the other word I'm looking for? Sort of
he's quite flippant,
and all that stuff. And there's another good word as well, indignant, to all of this stuff going on. And he plays those things really well. So there's a bit where it cuts back to the courtroom, and the Valeyard is basically trying to say, I suppose he's going to object to this bit again and all that stuff. And then he just sort of sits back in his chair and puts his feet up, and he's like, no. Let this bit play out, and we'll uncover all the plot holes, everything. So he's great in those courtroom scenes. I really like him in those bits. But I have to say, some of it really did pull me out of the actual story that was happening on Ravelox, because it feels like, I don't know, it feels like there's some fourth wall breaking down stuff happening almost with it, because when they're in the courtroom and it's really weird, isn't it? The extras that they got to play the other Time Lords must have been bored out of their mind. Because
they look bored, don't they?
All they do is they're just standing there staring down at what's happening. And then when they say, right, let's continue, they just turn around to watch the imaginary big screen behind them.
Are they replaced by dummies in the last episode, or am I just totally remembering. I'm sure that by the final part, they've just stuck some shop dummies facing the screen. I could be completely wrong, but yeah, my word, they look bored.
They did, man. Yeah. So in those bits there, when they turn around and they watch what's happening on the screen, I guess what we're watching as the viewer through the courtroom people is the episode itself. So it's almost like the Time Lords had cameras out on it. Does that make sense? It's because
how do they have this footage?
Exactly, yeah, because they're not watching it through the eyes of the Doctor. It's not like first person perspective through the Doctor's eyes, or they've got these little Gallifreyan CCTV cameras knocking around or anything like that. So we're seeing like the BBC production footage through the courtroom. So that it kind of pulls you out a bit, and it almost I guess that's kind of the point where it's trying to make you feel like you're observing along with the council what's going on, so you can make your own mind up as well about whether the Doctor was doing the right thing or not, and that kind of thing. But it just felt a bit weird. But I do like the idea of it, though. It's a kind of a cool concept to cut back and do that stuff, and it's cool how they progress through the Trial of a Time Lord story as well, where they go back in the past, and it's because the Valeyard's basically saying, "Look, I'm going to take you through a whole time period of the Doctor and show you all of his mess ups, basically, and everything that he's done wrong." So I like that we do the past, present, and then the future stuff as we go through. But so I think overall it's a bit of a hard one to kick off the series with. It's a bit, like you said, a bit ploddy, a little bit.
It's a bit by numbers, isn't it?
Exactly.
By numbers, yeah. I think also that you're saying about the cutbacks as well. I think that's the thing, because the Valeyard's using it to try and prove that the Doctor's meddling causes people to die and stuff. But I don't know if they were watching Resurrection of the Daleks, when everybody blimmin' dies. I mean, Eric Saywood kills her. Then you would think, he's got a point. There's death every 2 minutes, But he's showing this, Ravelock story to the court, and not a lot's really happening. Because I kept thinking, what is the point he's trying to make? He shows the Doctor and Perri walk through the forest because they've just landed. But yes, there is people dying towards the end of this episode, but I kept thinking all the way through, this story isn't even sort of backing up what the Valeyard is trying to do anyway. It's kind of just, it almost feels, I know this isn't the case, but it almost feels a bit like a Sharda, where they had the footage and thought, right, how can we incorporate this story into, this unused footage? How can we use it to make a story? Because it doesn't really translate to what the Valeyard's trying to do, I don't think. So it seems like a perfectly sort of watchable story that they're watching. But yeah, you're not sat there thinking, the Doctor shouldn't have done that, or you don't question really what the Doctor's doing at any point during, what they're watching, I don't think. Even at the end where people are dying, the Doctor doesn't really do anything specifically that causes that death, apart from, setting the machine to blow up, I suppose. But yeah, I don't know. I just don't think the story really translates to what the Valeyard's trying to do. It doesn't really show on screen that the Doctor's meddling has caused anything particularly bad, in terms of that bad, if you like.
Yeah, no, I read you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's a very thin, man. It's a very thin.
Yeah.
The Valeyard is essentially. It's hard to say some stuff about that without talking about what he does in future stories.
Yeah,
that's
why he does it. Yeah, that's what I was trying not to do. Yeah, because I know there will be listeners listening along and watching this as we do it for the first time, so I don't want to jump ahead too much. Yeah. So that's why I was trying to be a bit guarded. I think the other thing that with this story as well, though, the reason it feels quite ploddy is I don't know about you, but I feel like that half the cast are really going for it. So half the cast, I think. Colin,
and another one.
I think Joan Sim as well, normally known for what was that?
I was going to say, Joan Sims, yeah.
Joan Sim, normally known for sort of comedy, but she's playing it very straight. I think she's really good in it. But then the other half of the cast are so flat. Those two guys working with Drathro are absolutely awful. And I don't know what they're called. That'll surprise you. I tried to write it down. I think it's Tandrel and Hunker, possibly. They're so boring that I mean, their performance as well, the way they deliver their lines. I mean, who was the director? Nicholas Mallet. I wouldn't have had that. They just mumble. There's no sort of, there's no urgency or anything in anything they're saying. They're just literally reading their lines. And I thought at first, are they trying to be robotic? Are they doing this on purpose? Are they trying to be unhuman or what? But they're not. They're just talking like this. And well, the robot's going to kill us if we don't work together. I'm thinking, God, put some blimmin' effort in, guys. You're in Doctor Who.
Yeah.
They were particularly bad. But there's a couple of the other members of the cast as well, which I just feel like, we've said this before, it just feels like they've turned up on set, right? I'll read my lines and then I'm going to go home. And I think they let the side down, because I do think people like Tony Selby, as Glitz, and Glenn Murphy as Dibber, they're great characters, and you can see that they're really into the story. They're really trying to sort of give a performance. And so I feel like, Joan Sim, Glitz, Dibber, the Doctor, all sort of really trying to inject some energy into this story. The rest of the cast, and I'm quite disappointed in what's his name, Tom Chadbon as Mordine, because Tom Chadbon, now I'm sure you do, he's obviously City of Death, he's Duggan, isn't he?
Yeah.
Great character, we love Duggan. He's really into that part, you can tell he's loving it. He's also in Blake 7, a great character in Blake 7. So when I see Tom Chadbon's name on the cast list, I'm thinking, yeah, great. And he's really drabbing it, and he just doesn't feel like he's really bothered about being in it. So I feel like half the cast really let this story down. There's just no energy from them at all, when the other half are really sort of trying to go for it. And I think that lets it down as well.
Yeah, no, I kind of agree, mate. It's what I was saying earlier, the direction along with the script just make it a real slog sometimes to get through, because there is some good stuff in it. There's some great ideas and some good little nuggets of stuff, but it's all just wrapped up in this very kind of middle of the road paint by numbers thing going on. And
I've got to put it down a bit to the direction as well. I agree with you. The direction is pretty flat in there. Sorry to Nicholas Mallet, but it is pretty flat. Because the sets as well, I love the staircase from like the old tube station. It's all darkly lit and there's a marble arch sign on the floor all dirty. Yeah, that's great. So you get all that, and then they go from that straight into a really brightly lit, tacky looking corridor, and it's just a shame, really. I mean, I know the director's not responsible particularly for that. That's the production side of it, but the two, I just find it quite jarring, really. You sort of get this sort of gritty side of the story, and then you go from that to almost like I mean, the thing that Draffro's living in, his base, just looks like a sort of princess fairy tale door castle. It just looks really tacky. I think, oh, what a shame.
Yeah.
That's because all the money went on that blimmin' opening shot, isn't it? Colin said it. All the money went on that opening shot, which does look amazing.
It does,
by the
actually.
way.
For its time, it looks really good.
Oh, it still looks good, doesn't it? Yeah, but it is great. Bit Red Dwarfish, actually. I always think that when I see it.
It is a bit, actually, yeah.
Yeah, a bit Red Dwarfish.
We had a slightly different theme as well for this, didn't we? We had a bit of a redo by, what's his name? Dominic
Glynn.
Dominic Glynn, yeah.
Yeah, that's the other thing as well. I've never been a fan of the theme.
I know, it's not as.
I think he said he was given very little time to get it together, but it feels very flat, doesn't it? Like the Davison theme goes straight into it, and but when this one sort of, again, I hate to use the word, but it just plods, doesn't it? And even when the first few notes of the Doctor Who thing come in, it's just like do do do. It's really really subtle, and I don't know. I've never been a particular fan of this particular theme, I have to be honest.
Yeah, it's a good opening shot though, like you said. Great,
brilliant model shot, and the music in the episode itself's pretty decent.
I actually quite like it
for the most part.
Yeah, I quite like it. Yeah.
Did Dominic do the theme? Did he do the instrumental music? I mean, or was it someone else?
No, he did. Yeah, he did that as well.
Oh, he did that. So I like the instrumental music in it. Yeah.
No, it's pretty good. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, what did you think to the? We'll get onto some characters in a second, but what did you think to the idea then that Ravalox was Earth? Something that the Chibbers completely ripped off in Series 12.
I liked the idea because I'm not sure if I missed it. I was waiting for the explanation though, because the Doctor's convinced it can't be at the beginning, isn't he? Mm-hmm. He's like, well, it can't be Earth because it's in the wrong place and stuff like that. So did we find out why that had happened?
We do, but not until later on.
Right, okay. Because I thought I'd missed it. Because I got to admit, I did zone out a few times during this. And that's the other thing. Whenever we review an episode, I do try and make myself really watch it. You know, like when I'm watching something just for fun, like not for the podcast, you know, I'll be on my phone, and because I've normally watched it 100 times before. But when we review an episode, I do really try to watch it so that I don't miss stuff. So I'm glad I didn't miss that then, because I didn't get that at all. But I like that idea. I think it's a really good idea. And I feel it should have been a bigger reveal, though, because you get the mystery at the start. And I thought that's why I liked the first episode, probably the best out of the 4. I thought the first episode sort of gave us some really good mystery to solve. Like, you know, is it Earth? Is it in the wrong place? Who are these guys? This could be the underground tunnel. This could be the underground, I mean. So that was all good stuff, but it didn't feel like it was... I feel like the reveal should have been bigger. It sort of seemed to fizzle out, didn't it?
A little bit.
Didn't go anywhere.
Yeah, because I like the build up to that mysterious part of it as well. You know, as the name suggests, but because that's the thing as well. It's the name of the story is a bit of a giveaway. So you think that they would explore that a bit more about, you know, the planet and stuff, but you know, essentially it is Earth. It's just been relocated by the Time Lords. So. But they don't dive into much of that stuff in detail in this story. It's just, it leaves you a bit hanging. It's like, okay, well, because it's such a cool thing when they're in that tunnel and she sees the
Marble Arch.
The Marble Arch tube. Is it the tube sign she sees?
Yeah.
And that stuff. And you think, oh, what's going on here? But then it sort of gets left behind a little bit. But it's a great theme. And you can see why Chibbers wanted to rehash it a bit, because it's a great sort of concept to throw in there. But I actually think this version works better if they'd have just explored it a little bit more. Yeah,
exactly. It definitely needed to be explored more. Yeah,
because the Chibbers used it more of a sort of a climate change mechanism to sort of slam in your face about, you know, what's ultimately going to happen to the Earth if we don't sort of change our ways, sort of thing. Whereas there's none of that going on with this one. It's literally just pure plot, part of the story sort of thing, but it just fizzles out. Yeah.
That's what I was saying. I think Eric Saywood should have tightened up a few of these ideas, because you have got some good ideas. You got the beacon that they're worshipping, you know, that tribe, which is actually just a beacon that's malfunctioning or whatever. So you have got some great ideas. They're just kind of put in there, but not sort of really utilised. And again, as I said, I think a script editor, maybe that should have been tightened up and expanded on a little bit. I get they're trying to bring it in later on in the trial story. I get all that stuff, but yeah, it does leave you feeling a little bit unsatisfied by the end of the story. And I think this would be a lot less fun to watch, in a sense. I think this would be a real slog if we didn't have Glitz and Dibber, because they bring in the comedy element, don't they? They're a good double act, and that's one thing Robert Holmes is great at writing, actually. I think he always likes to have a double act. He wrote one of my favourite Blake Seven episodes called Orbit, which has got an amazing double act in that. So yeah, if you took Glitz and Dibber out of this, it would be really hard going, I think, because they do add some nice relief, and there's some great scenes between Glitz and the Doctor as well. I think there's some good chemistry between those two. The Doctor's just like, who is this rogue? So that's all good stuff, but. Yeah. It's weird, isn't it? He changed his character quite a bit, Glitz, between this and Dragonfire, I think. Not change his character, but he's a bit more ruthless in this. He was going to kill the Doctor, wasn't he, at one point? In the very first scene, he's going to shoot him in the head.
He was, yeah. There was and there was I think both of them. Well, actually, I think more so Dibber. So Dibber, there's a few scenes where he's ready to just open fire on people, and Glitz is like, no, we've got to think more about this. We've got to be cunning, and we're going to need these people later and all that stuff. So he reminds me of a bit of a Del Boy.
He's a bit, yeah.
He's very much out for himself, and he seems to have a plan up his sleeve a lot, but very rarely does it pan out and work for him. But there's something about his character though. There's something about Tony Selby, the way he plays it. It's just, I don't know, he's got like a charm, like a niceness about him. So you can tell he's a bit of a rogue, a bit of a mercenary, sort of in it for the money, out for himself sort of character. But I don't know, he's got this kind of... He's definitely not like a tyrant or a murderer, is he? Because when Perri gets thrown into the cell with those two, he's actually really friendly to her. And they start talking about stuff. So you can tell that he's just not, he's not nasty to everybody. He's just got he likes to plan his ruthlessness in this one a little bit, I think it's fair to say. And then when we see him... He's a
likeable rogue, isn't he?
Yeah, and then when we see him later in Dragonfire, he's mellowed a little bit, and he's not so... I think he's just happy just to be somewhere where he's not wanted for a change in Dragonfire, and he can just have a drink and chill and stuff. So, but yeah, he is quite different by the time we meet him again.
Do you think he works best when he's with Dibber, or do you prefer it when he's on his own?
I think he's... Well, I don't like one over the other. I think he works fine in both. So when he's with Dibber, he's very good because they bounce off of each other. Like,
I think so, yeah.
And so Dibber seems to be like, because he's a lot younger and stuff, not as much experience, I think he's more willing to just sort of run in and open fire, get the job done quick, whereas Blitz is more like, yeah, don't worry, we're going to need to play the long game a little bit. So, put your gun back in your pocket, all that stuff. But when we see him on his own later on, he still works really well because he bounces more off the Doctor in that one, and he's more,
Yeah, he works well with McCoy, doesn't he? Although I haven't watched Dragonfire for a while. And have we reviewed it?
We have.
Yeah, we did, didn't we? Yeah. What about Joan Sim then? Because I saw a little smirk on your face when I mentioned the name, because obviously most people will associate her with the Carry On films, and she's great in those. But what do you think of her in this with her big flowing red locks?
Yeah.
That's not her hair, is it?
I don't think so. No.
I don't ever remember having ginger hair. But anyway, what do you reckon to Joan Sims in this as Queen Katrika?
Katrika, yeah. Do you know what? In the first couple of scenes, I really liked her. But then the bit where they blow up the totem, as they call it.
Yeah.
After that point, they kind of go on a bit of a witch hunt, don't they? And they start hunting down the people that are coming from underground because they want to seize the planet back and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
From that point on, I just found it one extreme to the other. So you mentioned earlier that some of the cast are into it, some of them are not. So you've got some people that are really just like, I can't wait to get paid by the BBC at the end of this. And then when they're in the scene and they're not talking, you can just see that in their minds they're like, I've really got to stop at Tesco later. I've got to get that lamb, that shoulder of lamb, otherwise the missus is going to go. They've got that sort of face going on. So, and then you go to the other extreme where you've got Joan Sims, who is literally just, it's almost like she's in a school play, like a high school play where she's it feels like Nicholas Mallet has said, look, I love what you're doing, Joan, but this ain't the Carry On films anymore, right? This is Doctor Who. You've got to be more serious and really go for it. So there's a bit where she's got one of the guns that she's confiscated off of Glitz, and she's like thrusts it up in the air, and she's like, it's almost like a Braveheart moment. Like,
I know exactly
for victory. And, she's proper shouting and yelling, and she's like bounding off down the forest and all that stuff. And I just thought, oh, come on, Joan, you don't have to go that mad with it. So I really liked her to begin with. She had like a really stern, cold, sort of Queen Victoria-ish kind of thing going on. But then later on, she's got a touch of the what's his name's going on. Our old mate from what's his face?
What, Robots of Death or
he's the guy that we always say, oh, he's really chewing the wood in this one.
Or Visitation, because those are the two. So you got
City of Death. What's his name?
Oh, City of Death.
Not City of Death. Sorry. Who did the story you just said?
David Collins.
David Collins, yes.
Oh yeah, I wasn't sure because there's David Collins and also is it Tony Robbins?
It's
Visitation.
Yeah, I'm thinking of David Collins. Yeah,
David Collins. Yeah, he's giving a bit of theatrics.
She is. Yeah, it's almost like she's like, Dave, I'm in Doctor Who. I really don't know what I'm doing. What advice could you give me? And then this is the result. It's like, oh, for God's sake. Yeah. So what did you think then? Because I think you quite liked her in this.
I did, but I will agree that scene is cringy when she's like, to victory. And I almost feel like she's cringing doing it. I feel like she's a bit out of her comfort zone in that scene. Yeah. But yeah, no, you're right. I think in the start, she's great because she's very composed, playing it very straight. And I think, yeah, she's really good as that sort of quite powerful sort of figure. Her death's quite horrific, isn't it? Considering that this was the season when, you know, they were told you need to tone down the violence. Like, you know, the Colin Baker had been really criticised leading up to this about the violence. It's one of the things that they used to try and get it cancelled. So that's probably the only sort of particularly gruesome bit in it, but it is quite gruesome. Her face is sort of covered in lines of blood. I thought, oh, that's quite horrific, actually. So quite surprising considering, you know, that they were specifically told. Because if you watch the production notes, they even changed certain lines to make them less violent, which really, honestly, when you see what was originally written on the page, no one would have batted an eyelid. But they even went to the trouble of sort of softening some of the language in it to make it less violent, and then they go and show that, and I thought, blimey. But no, I quite liked it. I just, in some ways, I would have liked to have seen a bit more from her, because in my mind I thought she was in it a lot more than she is. But and I'm sure there's some outtakes. I was trying to find them on the Blu-ray set. I'm sure there's some studio footage of her saying like, no idea what's going on, or something like that. She's like fluffing her lines, and I was trying to find it yesterday but didn't find it. But yeah, no, I thought she was all right. I thought she wasn't too bad. I feel like a bit like the story, that she was a bit of a missed opportunity. You know, you got a great sort of character actor there. Use her a bit more, make more of her character. Whereas she started off great, and you're right, just kind of like just got killed, and that was it. And I thought, oh, she didn't really do anything, did she?
No, I thought exactly the same thing though, mate. In that death scene, I think it's her and another person from the tribe.
Yeah.
So Jarathro, he electrocutes both of them, doesn't he? When they turn around and they've got all those lines of blood everywhere.
It's horrible, yeah.
That was the first thing that I thought, you know, when I watched this yesterday, the first thing I thought, which you just said, was, crikey, how they had to be really careful with the violence and stuff, because we had the whole Doctor strangling people and throwing them in acid and all that lot. So I immediately thought, crikey, how did they get that bit through? Because it does look a bit, you know, don't get me wrong, it's not gory or anything like that, but for Doctor Who, it does look a bit like, oh.
Yeah, I'd put it up there with the hand crushing scene, which gets a lot more, you know, a lot more. And that scene's always much more gruesome than in my head than when I watch it, although it's quite unpleasant. From Attack of the Cybermen, I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Talking of nothing to do, poor old Nicola Bryant, she don't get a lot to do, does she?
Oh, bless her.
Perri. I mean, I forgot she was in it for half the story. I kept thinking, like, where's Perri?
She has a couple of all right scenes, like the opening stuff with the Doctor when they first get there.
Yeah, when she's worried about Earth, and you think she's got this feeling, and you think, oh.
Yeah,
but she gets very little to do in this story. She's great in the scene she's in, though. I mean, but yeah, again, it's just like, you know, it wouldn't matter if she wasn't in it, unfortunately, because she doesn't really do anything.
Yeah, and I think that's it. So she has a quite a good scene with Glitz and Dibber when they're locked up.
Yeah.
And then when they go on the run and she's trying to find the Doctor, she has a couple of cool little bits there, but overall she's quite quiet, really. They haven't really given her much to do. And this was also another change, wasn't it? So in the previous series, her character anyway, was criticised heavily. They had loads of complaints about what she wore. So she was quite revealing in some stories and a bit, I wouldn't say like provocative, but she was, you know, she was a lot more skin was on show.
Yeah.
I think is the best way to put it. So now from this story onwards, you can tell that because she wears like big jackets and shirts that button up all the way.
Yellow jacket, yeah.
And a lot of her shirts button all the way up nearly to the top, and she's got trousers on and sensible shoes and everything. So you can tell that they've really had to sort of tone that a bit. So I mean, what a time for Doctor Who. I mean, it must have been awful for John Nathan Turner and some other people, because and also the guy that was the guy that was overseeing things at the top of the tree at the BBC, I've forgotten the guy's name, obviously. He really miffed off. Robert Holmes at the time and Eric Sayward. More so Eric Sayward, because every time that they turned scripts in, he was like, "Oh, that bit's rubbish. That's rubbish. You can't do that bit, and you can't do that, and it's go and rewrite all of that bit." And I think Eric Sayward actually was like, "I'm had enough of this."
I think, I was going to say this is getting near breaking point where Eric was I think he just left the office. He'd had enough. Yeah,
I think he was just fed up, because I think up to this point, who was the showrunner before Sayward? Was it
showrunner? J&T was the showrunner. Do you mean script editor?
Script editor, sorry. Yeah, who was it before Eric Sayward? Because apparently before Eric, all the scripts used to be turned in, and they were like, "Yeah, thumbs up." I just don't think people cared enough about Doctor Who to dive into the scripts in great detail. They just sort of had a quick flick through and like, "Yeah, that's great," carry on. But by this time, who was the guy's name who was in charge?
Under scrutiny a lot more, isn't it? I think.
Yeah. So every script that was turned in, essentially, John Powell, that was the guy's name at the BBC. He just used to crucify all the scripts, and I think Eric Sayward was just, "No, you're not having it." And then couple that with the fact that all the complaints about the violence and what Perry was wearing and all this stuff, it's just, what a horrible environment to try and make a TV show in. It's just not a fun time, it sounds like. And then obviously they unceremoniously just binned off Colin at the end. He didn't even...
Yeah.
So it's terrible. Anyway, so yeah, it was a crappy time to try and make a show still loved by lots of people. I mean, we're talking... This wasn't too bad for its time. Not up there with the huge figures, but we're still pulling in like around 5 million viewers for the first couple of parts, and it dropped down a little bit. So still making a show that a lot of people were watching.
I do find it strange, actually, to think, considering all the stuff you just said, that was going on at the time. It is weird to then have a whole season where the Doctor's on trial. It does seem a little bit like...
It's like almost, art imitating life, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a strange thing to do. I mean, when they were talking about the idea in the production office, you'd think that they would think, "Oh, I don't know if that's a good idea." Because it is, like you said, it's art imitating life a little bit. And we all know how the trial ended in terms of the real life, not the story. So I always find that an odd thing as well, that that they went down this route, to be honest. Considering everything that was going on in the background. You're talking about Perri in that when she's in the hut prison with Glitz and Dibber. So that bit where the robot, because I want to talk about robots, the bit where the robot breaks through and the weird sort of tentacles pick Colin up, and that is odd, isn't it? When it's carrying Colin, and what the hell is holding him to that machine? Have they like put a plank down? I was trying to work out how he was actually being carried by that dreadful robot. What's it called? L1 or something?
It's I don't know. It's not a bad effect. It looks.
Oh, it's not a bad effect. I was trying to work out how they did it. Like, how is it actually carrying Colin like that? Because on the first bit, he's sort of hugging it, isn't it? You can see that they've reversed the film, I think, or something, and he's just holding on to it. But then the next shot, he's sort of lying flat, and the thing's just sort of got its tentacles wrapped around him, carrying him along. And it obviously didn't move very fast, because every time we see it, the film has been sped up quite noticeably, hasn't it? Mm-hmm. So every time we see that blue robot, it seems to be moving almost. You could put the Benny Hill theme over it, really. It's like jerky motion that the film has been sped up. So obviously didn't move very fast. But yeah, I was just wondering how they did that.
Yeah, it must have been just a metal shelf or something that he's laying on. Yeah.
I bet it wasn't very comfortable.
Oh, God, no.
Poor old Colin. But what did you think? I want to talk about robots. What did you think? Because I do like the design of Drathro. Although he's a rubbish villain, really. He's not very intimidating. He's not very scary, is he? Apart from the horrific death. I mean, he's so clunky. He can hardly move, and he can't go outside.
Yeah, it's a terrible...
a bit of a... But I like the design of him in a way.
I like the head. I like the top part of it. It looks quite menacing and stuff. But he's a terrible robot. I mean...
He is a terrible robot.
Along with him being clunky and stuff. And the electrocution stuff is kind of cool, however horrific it might look. But there's a couple of things that really let it down for me in terms of being a robot. And that the first one is he always seems to be low on batteries. Like every time he wants to do something, he's like, my power sources are nearly low and all that stuff. And you think, well, you're a robot, mate. Why can't you just keep yourself fully charged?
Is he?
And he never leaves the lab either. So he's around all the charging stuff anyway. But anyway,
and
he always
needs humans to do all his work. Exactly. His arms they can only move up and down. They can't move to the side.
Exactly, yeah. And then at the end, as part of his downfall, he succumbs to Glitz's BS story.
The worst trick, the worst.
This is a robot, and he's having some kind of emotional dilemma, like a human would. He's like, oh, I don't know. You're telling me that you've got all of this black light stuff in your ship. That sounds amazing, but you're a bit of a shifty character. I don't know whether to trust you or not. And it's like, you're a robot. It's like ones and zeros. Is this a good idea? Yes or no? No, let's kill him.
And he goes out, and he's like, yes, I think I would like to go outside and see your spaceship.
Exactly, yeah. The way that the lines are delivered, up to that point, they've tried really hard to make him robot-like. He's like very binary, yes or no, like, yes, this is great, or you must die, or whatever. But at the end, he has like a bit of a attack of, I don't know, he has like a bit of a crisis. He turns into Metal Mickey,
doesn't he?
Yeah, he's like, oh, like just the way that the lines are read by the actor, it turns very much from go away to like the emotion in the way the lines are delivered. It's like, that sounds like a pretty good idea you've got there, actually, Glitz. Let's get this into action. Okay, cool, let's do that. And then so that part of it really just undone all of the coolness for me from
It did. He's not scary at all. Yeah. I mean, who would trust Glitz? And also the whole thing about the robot is he's convinced that he's superior to humans, isn't he? He's like, of course we should survive over humans because we're much more intelligent. I'm thinking, really? And you're just going to go and have a look at Glitz's spaceship? Oh, it does. It all goes out the window at the end.
It does.
It really does.
And those two guys, the two blonde chaps that he's got working for him.
Oh, they are terrible.
Bloody annoying, those guys. It's like,
they survive as well. They come out at the end. I'm thinking, if anybody should have been electrocuted, it's you two. Oh, who let them live?
Crikey, Moses. I know. And the thing is, they don't even have any good bants. Like the two of them, as they're going through the motions and doing all their calculations and all that stuff, they just bicker with each other a lot. And it's like, I figured this out. Well, I think you'll find I figured it out. Oh, shut up, blah, blah, blah. And then the Drathro comes in and he's basically like, you two stop, knucklehead, stop bickering, otherwise the whole thing just is very bizarre to me. It's just like, and even when the Doctor fools them as well, there's a great scene where the Drathro has said, look, and that's another funny thing as well. He's like, you're human, but you're very clever, basically. So you can help out. So the Doctor's doing his thing, and then he's like, right, you hold that lever, you do that. And he electrocutes him and runs off. Even then, the two of them are just like, well, how did he do that? I don't know. And it's all very bizarre.
The thing is with those characters as well, is you can see what they were going for. You see what they were trying to do, trying to make two little funny characters, but A, the actors put no enthusiasm into the performance, and B, they're not written sharp enough. So there's a missed opportunity there. They could have been really funny little side characters that we often get in Doctor Who. We're like, oh, those two were funny though, but they're not. They're just really bland and badly acted. Yeah, they're terrible, those two.
They are, mate. Yeah. And I guess kind of lastly, what did you think to the performances in the courtroom? I know we picked up on it briefly earlier on.
But, of course we hadn't even talked about it,
Yeah, but Michael Jason obviously is the Valeyard, and
very good.
Linda Bellingham, straight out of the Oxo adverts, as the the Inquisitor.
Yeah, she walks in with a tub of gravy. Oh no, hang on, sorry, let me just pop that back. Shouldn't have that in my hand.
I got quite hungry watching those scenes because I was like, I could fancy a roast dinner with a bit of gravy.
You could smell the Oxo, like, Oxo.
So she was quite cool, actually.
She is good in it. Yeah, she's a good. She gets a good line between being sort of almost comedic in terms of her banter with the Doctor to being quite straight-laced and stern. So yeah, no, I like Linda Bellingham in this, and obviously Michael Jason Valeyard. He is quite pantomime villain, but good pantomime, because he doesn't stray into, to my opinion anyway, he doesn't stray too far into the ridiculous, but he is good. I find him quite menacing. I love all the stuff between him and the Doctor. Like you said, it is good fun. So yeah, no, those two are great. They do add something to a much needed bland story. They definitely bring in some fun to it, those three. Yeah.
And they were very intense as well. So the bits where, especially the to in and throw in between the Doctor and the Valeyard, it's like really, they're just, neither one of them is letting up. You've got the Valeyard, who's Michael Jason, just brilliant as the Valeyard. It's just very like, I don't know, he's got his mission in his head. Nothing that the Doctor says is going to sway him. He's got his evidence supposedly, and he's cracking on. And then you've got the Inquisitor, Linda Bellingham. She's trying to sort of, it is a courtroom after all, so she's trying to sort of get them to settle down and stuff. But the way that bit was written, really liked all of that stuff, because it had a real real world courtroom feel about it, where every time the Doctor had come in with something, she was like, "Yep, you'll have your chance to do that later," and the way she directs it and stuff. So I think I like the courtroom stuff more than the story stuff for me in this particular part anyway.
It'd be interesting to see. Yeah, I do get what you mean. I totally hear you. I think it would be a lot, although I know I said earlier they are a bit pointless, they do add a fun element to it. They certainly, although they take you out of the story, they still add something to it. I'll see how I feel by the time we get to the end of it, because it does keep happening. We keep cutting back to it. See how it goes. But yeah, it is fun. And the three of them, the Doctor, Valeyard and the Inquisitor, work really well together, don't they? As a team. Yeah, so they did definitely bring the story up a bit. Yeah.
Yep.
The only other notes I've got is there was a couple of little fun things thrown in for the long time Who viewer. So I like the fact the Doctor mentions his age. He's like, because they keep calling him the old one. And again, Colin's great at that sort of humour stuff, isn't he? He's like, the old one, getting all pompous. So he says he's 900 years old in this. We know the Doctor's age fluctuates. There's a bit where he gets a bang on the head. I think it's when the robot drops him. And he seems to do it. He sort of does a terrible impression of the Third Doctor. I think that's who he's supposed to be. He's like, "Where is it? Is that you, Sarah Jane?" So it's nice to see Sarah Jane getting a mention, albeit in a terrible Third Doctor impression. And I did like the fact that Glitz gets, and I've never noticed this before. I don't know how I've missed it, but
how have you not noticed this?
I don't know. Well, maybe I did, but I wrote it down today because I've just not really. I've probably fell asleep by this point normally watching this. But Glitz says 5 rounds rapid as well, which I thought was a nice little thing. Yeah,
5 rounds rapid should do it.
Yeah, which is great, and it's I think if it had been someone else saying it and not Glitz, it could have been very cringe. That could have been like, oh dear. But I like Glitz, so it kind of works. I thought that was a nice little thing for him to come out with. So I like those little nods, those little throw-ins. Mm-hmm. Finally, though, I wanted to ask a little bit of a quiz, right? How many different versions of the Valeyards can you name that the Doctor says? So I'll give you one. So, for example, the first one he calls him is the Boatyard.
Oh, the Boatyard, yeah.
He calls him the Boatyard. How many more? Just this story, because we've got more to come. I think I've noted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So one of those 5 is the Boatyard. Can you get any of the other 4?
The Graveyard?
Yes, tick. That's the next one.
What's the other? I can't remember the other ones, mate. I know those 2, though. Yeah. What are the other ones?
So you got the Farmyard, the Scrapyard, and the Knackers Yard.
Oh, the Knackers Yard, of course, yeah. He's really good when he says that one because he's proper screaming at him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Colin's great at delivering those. He really is. He is going up a bit in my estimations, Colin. He's I suppose when I think of Colin, I think of his stories, and there's not a lot of his stories that I enjoy. But then I forget how much I enjoy Colin's performance in a lot of these stories. He's a bit of a sort of a Matt Smith in that sense of even when you get a rubbish story, he sort of at least brings something to it. He's quite enjoyable to watch, isn't he? They've definitely mellowed his relationship with Perri as well, which is definitely needed.
Absolutely, mate. Yeah, because it was a little bit not difficult to watch, but a little bit sort of rolling your eyes every 2 minutes on some of the previous
too
stories.
much bickering before.
Yeah.
Way too much bickering. Yeah.
Yes.
So we get to see a bit of a softer side of the Sixth Doctor in this story, which is very welcome. Good to see.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
I don't think I've got anything else.
Yeah, me too, mate. I think we're pretty much done. We can slap a score on this one.
Yeah.
It's you to go first, buddy. So, Mysterious Planet, kicking off Trial of a Time Lord. What you got?
Yeah, I found this quite difficult to score. I'll be honest with you, because it's not great. I'll go with what I wrote down, which is 6.5. I was sort of nearly a 7. I thought it's kind of average, but I don't think it even quite reaches those levels. So 6.5 for me, a bit drab, I thought, as an opener.
Oh, okay. I'm going to go with a 6, mate.
A 6? Oh, I thought you might go with 7. Okay, that's good then. That makes me feel better.
Yeah, I'll go with a 6. It's a bit of a difficult watch to crack on with. So if somebody said to us, would you recommend we watch Trial of a Time Lord?
Yeah.
We'd have to say, yes, absolutely. It has got some great stuff in there as you go through it, but you're going to have to get through part 1 first. You're going to have to get through the Mysterious Planet. You can't skip it because it lays the foundation for what the Valeyard's trying to do, but you have to watch it.
Yeah. And I think I thought from the first 2 episodes, I thought this is going to be a 7. I thought, oh, it's okay, but it just falls flat after that, I think. So didn't quite make it to a 7.
Yes, yeah. Okay, so a 6.5 from him, 6 from me. What did our awesome listeners think? Let's kick off. We had a bunch of, you guys didn't disappoint again, with the old audio reviews.
Great.
We had a few in there, so let's kick off. First of all, a regular reviewer from Down Under, Sammy Satine.
G'day, Gary and Adam. Sammy Satine here. So, The Mysterious Planet. I enjoyed this one. The Sixth Doctor on TV is mostly a miss for me, mainly because of the violence, but he is pretty awesome on Big Finish. I like the Valeyard. Michael Jaston does an excellent job. Linda Bellingham does a good job too. Savlon Glitz is introduced here. They're not seen till Dragonfire after Trial of a Time Lord ends. Nice to see Perry and Sixie not arguing for a change. I really hate seeing them argue. Also, nice long hair, Colin. I like his umbrella. I give it 7 black lights out of 10. See ya.
Black lights are 7. Yes.
My internet cut out at the end. I didn't hear the end of that. I'll listen when it goes out. But how many did Sammy score it?
Sammy gave it 7 black lights out of 10.
7 black lights. Okay.
And she liked his umbrella. Yeah.
Oh, that's the bit I didn't hear. Yeah, I heard most of it, just the last few seconds. She liked the umbrella.
She liked the umbrella.
Nice.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah. Very colourful.
Yes, thank you very much, Sammy. 7. This is, next up, George Puddy.
So, The Mysterious Planet. While having some good ideas, mainly the idea of a random planet turning out to be Earth, this story also has some pretty unforgivable ideas. Most of the characters are just irritating, and the plot is more confusing than anything, as well as being thoroughly uninteresting when it comes to everything to do with the L3 robot, which is focused on a lot more than anything to do with the planet itself, which is actually the more interesting idea in my opinion. However, Colin Baker is actually really good, as is Tony Selby is Glitz, and the opening model shot is still incredible to this day. I also like how the Sixth Doctor and Perry's relationship is a lot more nicer than the annoying friction between them in season 22. So this story has a lot of good ideas, but it's also quite annoying. I'll give it a 5 out of 10. See you guys next week.
A 5.
A 5 from George. Yes, I pretty much agree with everything George just said.
Yeah, I love that. It's a pretty good story, but it's quite annoying. Yeah. Can get on board with that, mate. Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, George. A 5 from George. Moving on. I think this is a first-time reviewer. I could be wrong, but I think this is a newbie. So let's all welcome aboard David Carlin.
Hey, Gary and Adam. I'm David. And wowza, Mysterious Planet had everything I wanted from a Doctor Who story. Tension, action, and comedy. Colin Bacon controls the screen as a slightly odd trial scenario began. Watching, I actually didn't know whether I wanted more trial scenes or story scenes. The story on Earth itself is strong and would have held up on its own. Nearly every character adds something to the story except those annoying blonde plonkers. Oh, and is it just me or did Glitz and Dibber remind you of Panic and Pain from Disney's Hercules? Probably just me. Jethro may not be the strongest villain in any Doctor Who story, but he's used to drive the story to a strong conclusion. even if he did put his trust in Panic and Pain at the end. Dominic Lynn's music and theme enhanced the episode for me. Oh, and I did enjoy the little mention of Sarah Jane. What more to say, really? I'd give this 8 out of 10. Till next time.
An 8.
8 out of 10 annoying blonde plonkers.
Yeah.
That is the best description of them.
Yeah, and I do agree with it. If you're talking about Panic and Pain from, I think it's the animated film, Hercules, and I do agree, David. Yeah, it's the two plonkers indeed. Yes. Thank you very much. I'm pretty sure you're a first timer, David. I could be wrong, but just welcome aboard, buddy. If you are a first timer, it's good to have you as an audio reviewer. Right, moving on. This is Mr. Craig Bryce.
Hi guys, hope you're both well. So, The Mysterious Planet, what do I think of this one? Well, it's never going to be regarded as one of the best Robert Holmes stories, but if you go into this, if you haven't seen it before, and don't expect it to be like any other Robert Holmes story, like The Caves of Androzani, for example, I think you'll get a lot more from it. It's a comedy story, and I think it's a nice start to the Trial of a Time Lord series, what takes a darker approach towards the latter half of the series. I mean, I think you got a really good guest actor with Joan Sims, who's renowned for comedy, but in this she plays it absolutely straight, and I think she does a really good job. You got Michael Jason, who's absolutely superb as the Valeyard, absolutely brilliant. You got the comedy relief with Glitz and Dibber, who I think are really two fun characters. I really enjoy them. I think Drathro, the robot, I think that's an interesting design and a really good concept. Yeah, I really enjoy this one. I can easily put it on and watch it anytime. I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. Cheers, guys. Speak to you next week. Bye.
Nice one.
Another 7.5.
Yeah.
What did you give it? You gave it a 6.5, didn't you?
6.5, yeah.
Glad you enjoyed that, Craig. Yes. Right, moving on. This is Martin Arnold.
Mysterious Girl by Doctor Who. Mysterious Planet by Peter Andre is actually not a bad story, and I think the Trial of a Time Lord is actually. I really enjoy it. I'll be honest. I think it's ambitious. They up production values a little bit, so they were clearly intending to make this work, even though the BBC had the show under the cosh. And I think it brings out the best in the actors, and it's good to see that the in-character relationship between Perri and Old Sixie is pretty solid. I do think that this story is a little convoluted and it's a little slow, but it's a slow burner, and Doctor Who does those really well at times. And it makes you think, and that's what Doctor Who should be about. I like it. I give this a 7 out of 10. I like that we're introduced to characters like Glitz. There's a sort of whimsical facade to the whole sort of story, but at the core there's this interesting subplot with it being Earth that I think actually really makes this an interesting story. I'm looking forward to discussing the rest of these as well. So I'll give this a 7 out of 10, and cheers for now.
7.
Number 7. Oh, yeah, I must admit, I'm looking forward to going on this journey again. When we first talked about doing Trial of Time Lord, I was a bit like, I don't know, it's not one I go to, but yeah, it's got me invested enough, so I agree on that point.
Yeah, same, Martin. Yeah, I wasn't looking forward. I will be 100% honest with you guys, but when we were talking about doing this, I was like, oh crikey, May's going to suck. But I must admit, now that I've got this one out the way, I'm really looking forward to next week.
Yeah,
and doing the rest of them. So yeah, so a 7 for Martin. Cheers, buddy. 2 more. This is Alex Kingdom.
Hello, Gary and Adam of the Big Blue Box podcast. How are you all doing? Now, The Mysterious Planet, I've never seen Trial of a Time Lord before, and Adam did warn me that it's a bit, he didn't know what he thought either. And Mysterious Planet, I think it just sums up the era for me. I don't think that Colin Baker's era is really for me, and that's, fair play to anyone that enjoys it. I just couldn't get into this. I don't know, I feel bad, because a lot of people love Colin, and I do like Colin. I think in the role he's very good. I think it's the writing that lets it down. This is another one of those cases where it just doesn't work for me. Maybe it'll get better as the Trial of Time goes on, but right now I'm giving it down the middle of the road, 5 out of 10. It just, I don't know, sorry to be so negative. I hope that over the month I can find something else out of it, but right now, just didn't do much for me. But I'll give it 5 just for Colin's sake.
Middle of the road, eh?
5 for Colin.
5 for Colin from Alex. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I read you, Alex. It's I had a very similar thought, mate, going through it. I only gave it an extra point because the courtroom scenes are really cool for me. There's just not many of them compared to the story. But yes, a 5 from Alex.
Mm-hmm.
And lastly, this is Mr. Matt Steele.
Hello, Gary and Adam. Matt Steele here again. Hope you guys are well and having a good week. So, kicking off the Trial of a Time Lord saga, we have The Mysterious Planet. I really don't know what to say about this story. The story itself is very weak. The only plot points really are getting captured, then escaping again, then getting captured again, and escaping again, and on until the end of episode 4. However, I thought the acting on the whole was good, and I thought the effects and the spaceship scenes held up well. This is my first time watching any 6th Doctor story, and I must say, so far, I'm not impressed. I really hope he has better stories written for him. I'm going to give this one a 4.5 out of 10. I hope this improves, and I will see you guys again next week.
Oh dear.
Oh dear, Matt. I do like the fact there's some people watching this for the first time. I think it's interesting for people's first opinion on this, because I sort of go into it with a bit of baggage because of watching it back in the day, if you see what I mean. So it's interesting to get people's first, views on this.
Especially if it's the first time you've watched any 6th Doctor as well. It must be a bit...
I mean, if you were going to recommend a 6th Doctor story for anyone that's never seen him, what would you go for? Because I wouldn't go with, like you said earlier, I wouldn't pick Trial. I'd probably pick... Oh, it's difficult, isn't it? People will say Vengeance on Varys, but I find that... We've reviewed it, so I can say this. I find that such a dull story. Great concept, but really boring to watch, so I wouldn't pick that.
I'm not sure.
I'd probably go with Revelation of the Daleks, maybe. I don't know. Attack of the Cybermen, I think it's a bit... It's difficult with Colin. I don't know what I'd recommend. Probably a Big Finish, to be honest.
Yeah, it is a bit... it's such a tricky one with Colin, because it depends on how you view... him as a Doctor, not so much the stories, because a lot of the stories were actually pretty decent. It's more around how you feel about Colin as the Doctor. I mean, Revelation's pretty good. I don't know. The 2 Doctors has got a charm about it, but it's not the best kind of story.
No,
I don't know. It's a tricky one.
Mark of the Rani, maybe.
The Mark, yeah.
Isn't too bad.
Yeah, it's Pip and Jane's story, that, and it's it's not too bad actually. Yeah, there's a few, Matt, but probably I wouldn't cash all your chips on all of the Colin ones being amazing. There's a few decent ones in there for sure, but yeah. So that's going to do for audio clips. Thank you so much, guys, for taking the time to record your audio reviews and get them in. We love this part of the show, and we're going to move on to some social stuff. You guys flooded Twitter, so I'm going to rattle through a lot of these. What about Mr. Plaxton? Is a cool name. So at Bob Rushy says, Mysterious Planet is very formulaic, but after season 22, it's very welcome. Some great Holmes lines, and the character of Glitz, especially awesome. Rick Moran from the Dwas says, the most striking and positive aspect of this for me is that Colin Baker's characterization of the 6th Doctor is very changed from the previous season.
Yeah.
Here he is shown at last to be caring, likeable, warm and funny. Even his pomposity is played for laughs now instead of being an unpleasant irritant. Finally makes the Doctor endearing, kind and heroic. Not Robert Holmes' best, but still a good script, a 6 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
A really good point there, Rick. One of the things that a lot of people, it's very, very common opinion about Colin, was that he can be just very grinding at times, like just his constant... like his cander's just very uptight and very short and stuff. So it's very different direction in the script for him.
Yeah.
Yes. Genesis of Andrazani says the story is very formulaic on purpose, and I think that works really well for exposing how the Valeyard is willing to nitpick the Doctor as much as he can try and find him guilty. I love the way he tampers with the Matrix to try and find and bend it in his way. Overall 7 out of 10.
Okay, yeah.
Caitlin Dalek 100, a weird story this one, and it seems rather forgettable. It doesn't help what Chibnall did to this story with Orphan 55, which is annoying. I think that Doctor and Perri are a great duo together in this one. Glitz is one of my fave 6th Doctor companions through the Trial series. A 7 out of 10.
7, okay. Yep.
Our writer Jordan Shortman says, a really good story. I've still got it on video in the TARDIS tin, though I've since upgraded it to Blu-ray.
Yes, I've just dug my TARDIS tin out. I'll post a picture.
Is this the old VHS?
Yeah,
tin?
it's weird. I found mine the other day as well, yeah.
Oh, nice.
Put a
Put a picture
on
dude.
Facebook.
Yeah.
I will.
He goes on to say, I much prefer the chemistry between Six and Perri here, as the nastiness seems to have calmed down a bit. It's all filmed down near me. Oh, cool. A good opening story, even the trial. John Griffith says, Miled, I find the Doctor guilty of name-calling the Knacker's Yard, of injecting fun into contrived court scenes, not easily defeating 2 rubbish robots, and encouraging people to run around a lot. I sentence him to 3 weeks more of this story. He says, love the Doc, love Glitz. A 6 out of 10.
6, okay, fair enough.
Nick H. Heisenberg Pod says, really unfocused nonsense. The main plot is drivel and the trial scenes are not much better. Colin does his best, but this is the beginning of the end for the classic series. A 3 out of 10. Oh dear.
3?
Yeah. Max Cat 36 says, The Mysterious Planet is an amazing episode from Classic Who. It's the first story in the Trial of a Time Lord collection. I think a series of modern Who should replicate this sort of idea of a series-long story someday. I really like the idea, and Colin is amazing. It says, oops, I forgot to rate it. I give it 8 Perrys out of 10. Yeah, they've never done this sort of thing since. This whole thing where it cuts back and goes back and forth from a trial perspective or anything. So I think one of our reviewers did say it was very ambitious.
It is, and I like it for that. I like the fact it's ambitious, yeah.
Yes. Those fine chaps, the Lost on Gallifrey podcast. The Mysterious Planet always remains mysterious upon rewatch because 5 minutes after it's over, I always forget what's happened in it. Not the strongest of season openers by a long shot, but it's still an enjoyable story. I'm a sucker for the trial stuff, and Colin's ear in general, a 6 out of 10.
6, okay.
Edward Galooly, a guilty pleasure. One of my fave 6 Doctor stories. The twist that they are on Earth is a good one. Colin is a bit mellower, which I prefer, and the guest cast are great. Gives it a 7.
7, yeah.
Sarah Louise, the running Whovian. Always running.
Yeah, never stops.
Never stops. A first watch for me, and then a second. I didn't feel I had enough to say about the episode. I found it interesting in parts, quite funny in others, but it didn't grab me. That said, we usually watch a complete story, so for review, maybe it will grow on me. Currently a 5 out of 10.
Okay.
TF Productions. I've never liked this one. The brilliant and much improved chemistry between the Doctor and Perri sort of make up for a dull script. It has its moments. Tony Selby is another who makes this story watchable as Glitz. In short, it's just okay, a 5.
5, okay. Fair enough.
D.W. Sebling, it's an odd one. I remember watching this one last year, but I remember nothing from the episode itself. It's not terrible, but it really isn't anything special in my eyes. And lastly, Brian Chapman. He's been chatting plenty over on the Discord recently. Says a hard slog, this one. 4 Queen Catricas out of 10.
4, okay, fair enough.
Oh dear. And over on Facebook, we had just a few there. Charlie Turner, an okay start to the season. Best thing about the entirety of the season is the Valeyard. A magnificent villain. 5 out of 10 for the story. 9 out of 10 for the performance that Michael Jason gives so far.
Fair enough.
Thomas Richard, nice start to the season. It's nice to see Colin's Doctor mellow, especially with his relationship with Perri. You get the sense some time has gone on since we last saw them. Not the best from Robert Holmes, but good considering his condition at the time. 5 out of 10. And lastly, Joseph Howarth says, well, that was a fun story. Joseph said sarcastically. Seriously, this story is just a drag to watch. It's hard to get invested in this story when the court scenes interrupt the flow of the actual story. It goes back and forward. The Valeyard never shutting up no matter what. Have no disrespect towards Michael Jason, who was fantastic as the character, but the amount of times the court said scenes happen in just about every other minute of the story. Aside from Glitz, there's literally nobody in the supporting cast I care about because they are either 1, poorly acted, or 2, ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
It goes on to give it not much more praise and ends with a 5 out of 10.
All right.
Yes. So a bit of a divide for this one, Birdie.
Yeah. I think this is I think the Trial of Time Lord season is perhaps a little bit more for hardcore fans, but that's not to say anybody who shouldn't give it a go. But I think, most of the people who sort of rate it highly are going to be sort of really into that sort of thing. I don't know. Yeah. We'll see as we go through it. But yeah.
Yes, we shall see indeed. So, thanks again, everybody, for leaving your reviews and thoughts. It's awesome. Love this part of the show because we get to gauge what fandom thinks of certain things and if we're completely off the boil with what's going on. But, thank you so much. So next week, Bud, pretty obvious, but what are we on to next week?
Yeah, so next week, we'll be moving on to the second part or the second story, if you like. A bit of Syl next week, isn't it? Syl's in this one. He's back. Spoilers. It's Mindwarp.
Mindwarp, indeed. Didn't you watch this at the BFI?
Yeah. I always think you were with me. Were you not with me at
I
this
was
one?
not at that one.
Oh,
No.
I always think you were for some reason. I don't know. We must have talked about it afterwards. Yes, I was at the BFI for this.
Oh, cool.
Saw it on the big screen. But yeah, it'd be good to. I shall give it another watch, obviously, next week before we review it.
Cool. So yes, Mindwarp next week, and I think we'll do there, Bud, for 266.
Go on, do your Syl.
Thank you so much for sticking with the show and listening this week to episode 266. It's been wonderful to have you all watching Trial of a Time Lord. Some of you found it a bit of a slog, as expected, but some surprise scores, I must say. I never thought I would see Trial of a Time Lord reading out that somebody gave it a 9 out of 10. That's interesting. But, everyone's thoughts are their thoughts, so it's great to have them all in. 6.5 from Adam, 6 from me. Next week, as Adam said, we're continuing as we are for the rest of May for the Trial of a Time Lord series. Next week, Mindwarp, so get your DVDs out for that. And we'll plough through another 6th Doctor story next week. In the meantime, head over to the website www.bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. You can listen to all the shows on there. Plus, you can link off to the various podcast apps and networks. We'd love to have you as a subscriber. That way you won't miss a show when it lands every single Friday. There's also buttons there to go off to the various social networks, or just do a search for us, the Big Blue Box Podcast. You'll find us on there. We chat Doctor Who throughout the week. So we'd love to have you over there as we waffle and nonsense there. We've also got a Discord server. The link's on the website. Come and hang out and chat Doctor Who over there. And also check out my co-host's YouTube channel, The Geek's Handbag.
Yes, go and have a look at The Geek's Handbag.
Go and have a ganders.
Lots of vids on there for you to watch.
There's a link to Adam's channel on the website as well, by the way, in the sidebar. If you can't be bothered to go and search for it, just go and click the link and you'll land on it. Get a cup of tea ready.
If you're like me, just on the sofa and everything's just too much hassle.
Get a cup of tea ready and spend an hour or so going through Adam's videos. Loads of cool stuff over there. And Adam is on the socials as well, under the same name, The Geek's Handbag. The Geek Handbag.
I'm on all. I love the socials.
Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.
Facebook, the lot.
Yes. And because there's loads of stuff going on with Doctor Who right now as well, we're obviously talking about it a lot as well. So, come and get involved over there. Just give us a like and a follow. And, chat Doctor Who. So, until next week for episode 267 and our review of Mindwarp. My name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And remember,